Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. As some of you may know, we are the European Network on Religion and Belief. We are working across Europe to strengthen interfaith dialogue between religious and non-religious groups. But today we won't focus on ourselves too much because we have a lot of things to talk about. And as some of you may know, today is International Migrants Day. It's a day appointed by the United Nations when we are supposed to celebrate and reflect on the contributions of migrants, millions of migrants worldwide. But today, it is also the day when the final negotiations of the new Pact on Migration and Asylum between the European Council, the Commission, and the Parliament are happening. And this new pact basically undermines the right to asylum as we know it and increases detention measures for newly arrived people. Today, we also found and learned the name of the Albanian asylum seeker that committed suicide last week on the BB Stockholm barge in the UK. His name was Leonard Farruku. He was 27 years old. And we want to say their names because we want to remind that migrants are not numbers. They have stories, they have dreams and names. And we also want to share, lastly, our sadness and anger for the 70 people that died yesterday off the coast of Libya as a direct result of EU externalization of borders. And while speaking about Libya, just last week, a joint investigation by the Lighthouse Reports proved that Frontex, which is the EU agency that has the highest budget, actually, while Frontex systematically shares coordinates of refugee boats that are trying to escape Libya with boats that are operated by militias that are involved with war crimes and human trafficking. And while there have been multiple international reports that prove that these boats, like the shipwreck, the Pilo shipwreck in Greece back in June, are deliberately either pushed back or not assisted. So as activists, as humanitarians, and as anti-racists, this is the context we are facing. But we want to showcase today the work of organizations that are on the field 24/7, every day, every week. There are multiple organizations that are working on the ground denouncing this daily structural violence against people on the move and asylum seekers. And one of these is No Name Kitchen, who I'm proud enough and to have joined in the past with Stagosa here. You might see him. We were volunteering together in Greece, in Patras. So No Name Kitchen is an independent movement of activists that are on the ground 24/7. They're denouncing the pushbacks, which for those of you who might not be familiar with the term pushback, we will get to it and explain what that is. But basically, No Name Kitchen are denouncing the daily violence that people on the move and asylum seekers face. And they are, well, as well denouncing the structural violence that the EU border management and migration policies imply. So I will give the floor now to my colleague Ozge, who will explain a little bit the dynamic of the event, and then we will get to the speakers. Thank you everyone for being here.
Hi everyone, thank you Mireia. Thank you everyone once again for being here. It's actually really nice to see many of you joining us tonight. So with this event, we will try to give an update on the EU migration policies and the realities of asylum seekers in Europe with activists and migration experts and lived experienced panelists. I will briefly go over the plan of the event. We will start by screening of the animation movie called The Pushback to showcase the reality of hundreds of people face when trying to reach a safe country in Europe. And this event will provide a geographical overview, delving into the different particularities of each location. So we will begin with the Bulgarian-Turkish border, connecting with the current activities of the No Name Kitchen team in that area. Moving on, we will shift our focus to Serbia, and we will engage with a discussion. We will engage a discussion with Jelena Obradovic, who is a senior lecturer in geography and politics at Austin University, along with the No Name Kitchen team from Serbia. Next, we will be moving to Bosnia, where we will connect with the No Name Kitchen Bihać team. Finally, we will turn our attention to Italy and Spain, and we will be having a discussion with Stakoza, an Egyptian peace activist and human rights defender. At the end of the event, we will also have some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask at the end of the event. One last reminder, this event will be recorded, so if anyone feels uncomfortable, you can choose to switch off your camera. So yeah, I will give the floor to the non-name team.
I will share the video of the pushback first.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, hopefully everyone can see it and hear. Give me a thumbs up.
I can't hear anything.
No, sono dentro adesso. Okay, I was told you couldn't hear the sound of the video. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I hope at least you were able to read the subtitles, because otherwise, yeah, perfect. Okay, then, Oski, if you want to introduce the next speaker, I will share the link. Definitely, I will share every link and material we comment or touch during the discussion. I will share afterwards.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, we will have now the no-name kitchen team from Bulgaria.
Hello everyone, this is Lea. Victor. Hi.
Leslie, hello.
Thank you,
Hello.
Mireia and Osge.
Thank you for joining, guys.
Yeah, and Mark and everyone from Enorg for hosting this event. Can you hear us well? Is the sound coming through?
Yes, it's coming through, not like with the video.
Okay, super. So for me, the idea of this event was to try to give a geographical overview of the border situation in the EU, where the NK teams are on the field. So that's why we are starting to talk about what is happening in the Turkish-Bulgarian border. For me also, the idea was to try to recap what was the most relevant stuff that happened in 2023, no? Because sometimes it's very difficult to have memory of all the things that happened, and to do like a recap at the end of the year sounded like something that could be worth it. However, the reality for us is that we have been here in Bulgaria only for 2 weeks, and this is a kickoff pilot project from the NNK that started only beginning of December. So we can tell you what happened in the last month, that we actually did a lot of stuff, and we understood a lot of dynamics that are going on here in Bulgaria. For me, it was also important to mention that, like, to give a little bit of context, no, and to say that maybe Bulgaria is not as well known in media for being part of the route as Greece, but the fact is that it represents kind of like the same geography as Greece, because many people have tried to go to Greece, and if they have failed, or if they don't want to confront the sea, they would come to Bulgaria, no? And that is what is happening here for many years, really, for the past years, and it's only now that we are trying to have an impact here and to advocate about the situation, because the reality is that people are dying while crossing this border, and there is people on the move who are stuck in camps for a long time in very difficult conditions, and there is also detention camps that don't, for sure, are not respecting human rights, are not respecting the international standards, and that is what we are looking into. That's what we want to report about, and that's why we are here. Maybe we can also tell more about what we have done, no? Like so far.
No. So we've been here for the past 2 weeks, as Lea said, and for the moment we are based in Armali, which is a little town near the border with Italy. And Armali is a refugee camp that currently is visited, hosts more than 1,700 people. And for the moment we've been there, and we met the people that for one reason or another have found themselves to be there, not forcibly for their will. They found themselves to be asylum seekers in Bulgaria. The thing that so far from our understanding that is happening are multiple possible scenarios. So people can be found either at the at the border with Turkey, and what happens there is a majority of the times that they are being pushed back to Turkey again, or if they're found to have crossed irregularly the border with Bulgaria, they are first sent to detention centers, which is a mandatory period for demanded by Bulgarian law for police, for the state, to assure officially the identity of the people. And then what happens there is that by law there should be a certain period of time that they are detained there, and the short period of time should be up to 30 days maximum. But as just into these 2 weeks, we've met some people that have been there for also 40 days, or anyway much longer than it should be. And conditions in the detention centers, as far as we know, there are 2 detention centers that are legal. One is in Sofia, and one is in Ljubimet, that is some kilometers away from Armali. And conditions there are kind of terrible, and not respecting at all what the detention center should be by law. So after have passed this period in detention centers, the people are either considered eligible to request asylum in Bulgaria, or it can also happen that they are sent to transit centers, which already began with the accelerated procedure with asylum. So it can happen also that people mostly coming from Morocco or Afghanistan, they are directly pushed back or anyway not considered not admissible as a case, asylum case, and who is instead considered like the case is considered like admissible. It can be, this person can be sent to this to refugee camps, and this is what happened to the people that we met in the Harmali refugee camp. So people stay there, and usually takes 3 months for their cases to be analyzed, and yeah, that's at the moment what we've been seeing about people that are found in Bulgaria. But as far as we know, anyway, the detention centers are there can be also illegal detention centers where people are just sent to, and we don't have so much track at the moment of those centers, but we know that it has been happening. Also from some reports, the Lighthouse reports, other law cases that have sorted in this period. So yeah, we can also Lea already mentioned the fact that in Armali refugee camp the conditions are kind of not dignifying at all. As far as we know, there are the conditions with food-wise, health-wise, hygiene-wise are not
Water-wise.
Water-wise, yeah.
In water here is a big problem. Everyone is saying that water has uranium, and that's
Sorry,
something.
can you repeat the word? Water has?
Uranium.
Uranium. Okay.
Yeah, not only for not only the camp water, but like just the water in this area. The thing is that like we think that in the camp is the only option. So that is something that we also want to look into, because health-wise it's very worrying, no?
No, definitely. And I wanted to ask, now that I have you there, the people that you've met that are en route, like on the way to continue their journeys, with these current temperatures, how is it? What's the scene, or what is it right now?
I think that Serbia, non-kitchen team, and who will speak for Serbia can also maybe explain a little bit more what's happening to the borders with Serbia. So at the moment, people are not able to cross, so to continue their journey, mostly the majority of them, because I mean, as far as we understood, talking to people, there are many who tried, and it's not so easy at the moment. So we've been hearing a lot of pushback coming from Serbia. So I mean, most of the people that are there are kind of aware of the situation. So what an alternative that they have thought about is to wait in Bulgaria for their residency, and then try to move from there to arrive to other European countries in a more regular way. But of course, this is just a part of them, and this is what we've been hearing in Armali refugee camp. We didn't reach people at the moment from the transit center that is located in Pastrogor, which is as I said, a transit center. That means that people are just waiting for having an ID or something to get into the asylum procedure. And those are the people that are mostly on the move. And we know that anyway, the people are keeping on moving. And just in this, we have this, we have the connection with the rescue phone, with the emergency phone, and which is responsible for picking up the phones of people in distress who are crossing the borders. And in the last 2 days only, we received two emergency emergency calls. And so, I mean, people are moving, yes. And conditions, weather-wise are kind of difficult, as you see from my press. And anyway, yeah, it's really cold, and it's been snowing. So yeah, the calls that we received were were at the border from Turkey to Bulgaria, and not Bulgaria to Serbia. But yeah, and of course, in order to avoid the border police that systematically, as I said, push back people and beat them up, robs, steal their phones, their personal belongings. They try to cross through the forest and difficult ways to cross the border, and of course this results in very in finding people that struggle with weather conditions, health conditions, and so it's not easy. And as I was saying, these the emergency calls, for example, were about two men that we know for sure to have died, and in yesterday.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part? Because we lost just a bit of what you were saying in the last part.
So yeah, as a result, of course, there is someone who cannot make it, and the last emergency call that we received was for a rescue of a man that actually we knew for certain that have died. So, and this is just from our recent experience, but this has been happening for years now. And as I was saying, there's an interesting report it's widely known now that people are dying, and this is one of the most dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the first of the Balkans.
Yeah.
And also missing people here is also a really big problem, like a really big situation, and no one is taking care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what happens with the people that maybe are in distress or maybe unfortunately sadly die in this border? Maybe they are found by the police, and what happens to them is kind of uncertain, and procedures are not legally are not followed by legal standards. So what can happen, and from also what we know from Collettivo Rotte Balcaniche's experience, is that the people that die are then put in mass graves, and DNA is not taken, families are not being alerted, and this results, of course, in missing people, because the fate of what happens to these people is not taken care of by the institutions.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, I mean, probably that's a really difficult number to get, especially when institutions are not being involved, but do you know how many people have been missing in Bulgaria recently? That's probably a very unknown number, but
not for sure, but every month there are tens of people who get lost, and this is the obviously a ballpark figure, because for many of them nobody will be able to account for. What we know is that, for example, the obituary in Burgas was already in this summer used completely for corpses of people on the move who perished at the end of the European Union. The obituary has been full since ever since. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's all.
Thank you very much for all the insights. Maybe we can move to the Serbian team. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the Serbian team here?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
We are Shid and Subotica team mixed. I'm gonna talk about the situation here in Shid. Right now, like it's really a complex situation because if I'm not wrong, on the 27th of October, Serbia government and Hungarian government started a maxi operation in Serbia, in the north of Serbia, and they evicted all the camps in the north of Serbia, which means Subotica, Sombor, Kikinda, and probably another one, but I don't remember the name. And they started to deport all the people from there to here and also to the south of Serbia. So here we recorded an increasing in numbers, really a big numbers, because before we had like, for example, in the biggest camp here, like 40, 50 people probably. And after that operation, we arrived to count like 1,200 people inside that camp. But we know that now they are starting to deport some people from here to the south, to the border with Montenegro. And so this is the situation regarding the movements that the government is doing. And at the same time, like inside the camps, the situation is really complex because there is, for example, no food for everyone. Some people are saying that there is not hot water to do the showers. There are no beds for everyone. And also there are not doctors who are treating people enough. So there is a lot of scabies, first of all, and then many other disease that inside the camps. And also like here we have a particular situation inside a specific camp, which is the miners camp in Shid, because we've been told by many guys, it's just a rumor, we don't know exactly, that some workers inside the camp are beating the guys, but yeah, it's just a rumor, like we don't know for sure. And at the same time that these guys are not giving what the camps should provide, for example, food or even hygienic stuff like shampoo or showers or even clothes. So we are trying to kind of give them more clothes because it's winter and these guys are really without money and they are also minors, but the camps really don't care about that. And that's crazy if you think about it, because European Union is giving a lot of money to Serbia government to provide for these people, but they are not doing what they should do. And yeah, more or less, this is like the overall situation here. Do you want to add something? Just from like the medical point of view, the camp doctor at each camp seems to be almost non-existent. The guys tell me that they go and tell the camp doctor and show the wounds and show their symptoms, and the camp doctor just doesn't do anything or prescribe anything like real medication. When I take the prescriptions for the guys and get them, it's just vitamins. And for a guy that had like a really bad chest infection, so it's not good at all. And this guy has a really bad infected toe, and the doctor just told him to leave the office. So that's just from a medical point of view.
So thank you for those insights. You're referring to the medical doctors from inside the camps?
Yeah.
Okay. And what the attention like in the hospitals if you go there?
I haven't been, but I've only been here like a week and 1 day. But from the handover,
it's super bad. You have to go with the individual if you're going to take someone to hospital, because you have to be an advocate for them, because they just get ignored whilst they're in hospital or in A&E. And getting them to hospital is really awful, because taxi drivers don't take them, or they bail last minute, and then the hospitals, if you try and have an appointment, the taxi driver just delays it so much, so you miss the appointment. Or in the handover with the previous medical, they said sometimes the doctor just doesn't turn up, and then when you try and reschedule, the receptionists say, oh, you missed an appointment, we're not going to give you another one. So you're just battling so many elements. And then, but luckily I've kind of befriended 2 pharmacists, so I've managed to like get them to understand my examination skills, and when I tell them the symptoms, they're pretty good. So, but yeah, obviously it's not great. It's not a great system. The really scary thing is with the doctors in camp just say, apparently the men don't get the priority. I don't know whether the doctors are seeing just general public as well, because someone told me they don't get priority. So I don't think it's solely for the people in the camp. But yeah, just the same prescription is always given to me, which is Panthenol and paracetamol, and doesn't do anything for a chest infection.
I see there's a question for Sheet Team. Did you notice if doctors in camp prescribe Lyrica?
I haven't seen Lyrica at the moment, no.
Because
But-
recently No Name Kitchen published
Yeah,
a
but
report on
we
that.
actually know that they are taking Lyrica also mixed with some energy drinks. So like sometimes they, like when we go there, some of them are looking like quite a zombies, just walking
Sorry,
around.
can you explain a little bit what Lyrica is for
Maybe
those who might not know?
I don't know like very well because I'm not an expert, but I think it's like I think it's for like psychology. I don't know.
It's not a drug I've heard of.
No, it's not a drug, but it's like I think psycho. I don't know.
Oh, pregabalin.
For epilepsy.
No, I haven't seen this.
Yes, Takoso says it's for epilepsy, but apparently it's been given widely.
Yeah, but like they sometimes take it mixed with the energy drinks because I don't know how, because I never tried, but from what we understood, this mix kind of fucked up your mind, and they are like they are not feeling any kind of emotions, like they are not scared at all. They can do anything when they are under this effect, and this is actually quite dangerous because they can feel like Superman and do whatever.
Yeah, actually the BH team is saying that they made a report on Lyrica. So maybe now when we move to them, they can describe the drug a little bit.
Yeah.
And Amalie is asking, did they say where they were getting it?
No.
Okay.
No. I just want to add something about the movements of the people, because like right now the route from the Hungarian side is closed because of this maxi operation. So like most of the people right now are crossing from Bosnia and also Croatia. Most of them are crossing from Bosnia, but still there are people who are trying to go to Croatia. And we actually think that they are kind of reorganizing the whole route from Serbia to other places. So probably in the next weeks, we can understand it better.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you very much. We can maybe move now to the BH team.
face.
Yeah.
Hi, hope you guys can hear us. We are the BH team, and we are based, BH is in Bosnia, in the northwest of Bosnia. We have, at least most of us have been here for a few months now, working in the field. I guess a little overview of our field work is we provide basic things like food, medicine, medical care that we were able to access, and clothes. Alongside that work, we do reports and collect testimonies about the pushbacks and the violence happening at the border. I would say that maybe going off of what Serbia said, with the closing down of a lot of camps and squats in the north of Serbia, we've been seeing an influx of people coming to Bosnia. A lot of people in the past week, 2 weeks, have said that they've been making their way to Bosnia because of the closures. And some other things that we've been seeing along the border is we've been noticing an increase in the types of violence that the Croatian police have been using against people on the move. So most people who are trying to get past the Bosnian border into Croatia, they're trying to pass it just to basically to go somewhere else. Most of the people we talk to have no intention of staying in Croatia. They just merely want to pass through Croatia so that they can go to Germany or Italy or somewhere else or Slovenia, somewhere else that they can apply for asylum to. But nonetheless, that's the border that for most of them, the most violent acts have been inflicted on them on this one specific border. And the border between Bosnia and Croatia, it's a river border. The Korana River is basically outlining the territories. So when people get pushed back, many of our pushback stories involve people being pushed into the river. We've heard stories of people being forced to stand and walk in the river for an extended period of time in the cold. Especially now in the winter, these acts have actually not stopped, even though we thought maybe they would, because the water of the river is quite high now. And including pushbacks into the river, we've also have had reports of stripping of people, or stripping of at least the warm clothing of people. So taking the jacket, sweater, shoes, things that they need in the cold, especially because it's cold here now, before entering the river. We've had many testimonies of beatings by police batons, police bites, police dog bites. Yeah, not police bites, police dog bites. And also alongside these terrible stories, many of these stories also involve minors. And one of the main things that we have been, I guess, witnessing here or getting testimonies of here is also police burnings. So along the forest, there's the river, and then there's a forest bit to the border where we are. And in that forest bit, many police burnings are happening where police steal phones. They take phones, passports, IDs, shoes, clothing, any personal belongings, backpacks, notebooks, anything, and they basically create a burn pile. And they take these items and make the people watch as they burn their items before they push them into the river. This is not an isolated incident. We have had multiple testimonies of these police burnings, including one of religious items like the Quran and a prayer rug being burnt. So that's kind of, I guess, an overview of the actions that have been starting to take place by Croatian police on the border. And we are only getting, we are seeing people after these moments. And so the markings, the beatings, and it's very present. Anything else to add in that to the overview?
To the pushbacks?
The pushbacks, yeah.
I would say what we hear is quite different in the brutality
but we also really saw, like, heard horrible stories of people being forced to walk through like hot coals of their burnt belongings, or someone having like had a burn on their finger made by like it next to the beating. Yeah, we hear really brutal
And
things.
including the part of many of the pushbacks is the Croatian border police many times are not in official uniform, are in balaclavas and black uniforms. But either way, even if they are in official uniforms or not, many stories we've heard they've taken all the money that people have off of them. So if they have basically 50 euros that they needed to get a bus from Zagreb somewhere else, all of that money is gone. And yeah, basically any money that they have completely taken away. And I think the next main point leading to like the pushbacks is the result of at least the Bosnian institutions around medical cases, is that we see really extreme medical cases because of the brutality at the borders. And most of the time, none of these people have adequate medical care. Whether they're in the camp, the Lipa camp, the migrant camp here in Bihać, but it's kind of it's not really in Bihać. It's like 6-hour walk from Bihać, the city center of Bihać. And there's only a handful of doctors there, and the care, or just one doctor.
At least 800.
Yeah, one doctor for at least 800 people. So the care that they are able to receive there is basically none. And then alongside that, there is the medical care in Bihać, central Bihać in the city. And that care is also non-existent. We have had cases of wounds that needed stitches. A man who was his eye was quite literally being blinded in Bihać, and we tried to take them to the hospital here. And not only were we met with a denial of care, we were met with racism against people saying that Moroccans are dangerous people and that they don't deserve care. And even in these situations, when we at least try to get them at least to go to Lipa, because that's the only doctor that they can get, also a denial to take people to the only potential medical care that they can get. And that leads, I guess, to the Lyrica report that we made.
I wanted to add one little thing to this like going game when they cross the border, maybe like not connected directly to the pushbacks, but one topic also mentioned already by other bases is also like the result of having no safe way to cross the border. So for sure, first that's the cold. We saw videos, we heard stories. I mean, people are also with this when they lose their warm clothes, their shoes, everything. They're really bad equipped. They need to stay for days in the cold. So that's a big topic. Also, the river, now they are more dangerous even than in summer because they just have more water. So we also heard like several stories of people drowning while trying to cross. Because, yeah, and last week we also heard and saw pictures of like a bear attack, like people on the move being around in the woods, being attacked by a bear. That's also really dangerous.
Also, to add the danger into the forest as well, is that the forest that many people are crossing with are minefields left behind by the war. So on top of the already danger of police brutality and being pushed back in the cold, is that there are countless mines where they are crossing. And also what I also forgot to mention about the cold is also many people who they try to avoid the river path and try to go on the mountain path, but now the mountain path is completely snowed out, or pretty snowed out near the top. And we got a report about, I think 2 weeks ago, that 4 people died while crossing. And just like the Bulgarian team, we're hearing these reports of people dying, and then also a lot of people have gone missing. Like from the people that we know, we've had people ask, have you seen these people? And I can only imagine how many more people we don't know have gone, because the amount that we can access is limited compared to how many people are here.
Yeah, and now maybe to come back to the point you were already starting, like about the medical care in the camps. I know maybe that's what you were referring to, because what was already mentioned is strong medication, Lyrica. That's actually a big topic here in Bihać. We heard about it a lot. And that's why we started doing some deeper research and to make some interviews. And I don't know, Nico, do you feel like talking about it, or should I try to summarize? Yeah, like Nico wrote the report, so we can share the information. Yeah,
I can explain a bit, and if you feel that add something.
yeah, sure.
Actually, Lyrica is a drug that it's mainly used for epilepsy. It is not a psychiatric drug, but it has effects that relax the muscles, so that is also why it's also used for some cases of anxiety. And what we hear from the reports and from information inside of the camp is that they are given basically without medical prescription, without any following up, like this kind of medications that are very strong should be provided by a protocol and the following of a psychological aid. And when people go there, the doctors only ask them what is the usual amount you take, and they just give them that. Like they don't care about the effects that they have on the people, and they don't make a following of how it is taken. I think that the SID team explained it very well, that it gives you a feeling of numbness, that you can do anything. So many people use it for going game, and also it helps to slow the effects of PTSD that many people, due to the violence, have psychological traumas after all the violence that they are forced to suffer. So it can help, it can numb the effects of PTSD, and that's why they also take it. And some people have reported that they gives them some feeling of euphoria, and that's why they use it for going game. And most of the people that we ask,
Can you clarify what go to game is? They're not familiar.
It's the name that it is given in, at least in the Balkan route, to when people try to cross the border, and they say that it's the game because you are risking your life, and it's like they are playing one again and again and again, and if you lose, you come back to the beginning, to the start, like a video game. Yeah, no sé qué más decir de Lírica.
Ginevra was asking, what are the general conditions at Lipa camp at the moment?
So we're not able to go into Lipa camp. We can only share like the impression we get when people on the move are telling us about it. But I think with the increasing numbers, the conditions weren't great before, that's for sure. I think especially what Masa already mentioned, that it's so far away from Bihać is like really bad. It's even colder because it's on a mountain. And also now there are so many people that people started asking us for blankets, for shampoo, towels. People share that they are hungry, like the food is not enough and not nutritious. So I would say with the increasing numbers, the conditions, went even worse.
And we weren't asked for these things before, I should pre-mention.
Yeah.
We weren't, so I think the increasing numbers and the request for these items kind of correlate together.
And maybe one thing I would like to add also, we found out in the Lyrica report, like in this research, it's not only an issue that the doctors in the camps are like really giving it away so freely, because I think that's also connected to the poor medical support in the camps, that it's so stressful anyway. You don't want to have people who are already addicted to a medication being not on this medication, because then the stress level will even increase. But one also really important thing we found out is that there is a huge black market. From what we heard so far, mainly locals, or people were describing that people like from Serbia are coming with backpacks full of this medication, arriving in Bihać, because here is like the big market, let's say, for selling this super easy. And they have this system of people on the move also working in the distribution, but also them selling it themselves. It's like someone told me like this can be people working in a hospital or in pharmacies, just getting like some stuff aside and then creating a black market. So that's also a huge part of the system. Like, yeah.
And to add lastly for the Lyrica, so where it's the black market, pharmacists sometimes give it out if you know what to tell them. LIPA camp doctors give it out freely. We've also got reports of security guards at LIPA giving it out and selling it.
They give it out freely.
Yeah, no, I
Doctors.
don't know for free. I think they're selling, the security guards are selling this drug to people in LIPA. So at least the informant that I talked to, he implied that basically that the doctors only give a certain, at the camp only give a certain amount of the drug, but they are able to get it in other places when in the camp, like the security guard of the camp.
So just one last question from my side. You were mentioning that you've been there for a few months, right? And I know in the summer, the Bosnia route used to be very different and people could transit in a more easy way. When have you started noticing these changes in the increase of violence?
Over?
Yeah, I would say in the end of September, beginning of October. Like I think that in October the things before started to get harsher, but in October there was an issue with some smugglers that they shoot some police people. No one get hurt, but it was like the beginning of the increasing of violence because they take that as an excuse to repress and militarize more the borders.
I mean, that was actually the same, like at least what I heard in Subotica from the Subotica team, that there was violence from smugglers, like some shootings, and then there was like a huge repression on all the people on the move in this area.
I would like to add one more thing about the Lyrica, that it's that its use its use of without the following can lead to people overdosing, and we have heard of cases of people dying because of the consume of this drug and also mixing with other things as alcohol. And personally, for me, these deaths are also a result of the European.
Definitely, yeah. You're referring, sorry, to the same drug, Lyrica, mixed with alcohol. But definitely, yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you for the insights and the information and testimonies.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you for having us.
You want to add something else?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all from our side.
Yeah, thank you. And Stakota?
Hello.
And yeah, continue with you.
Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Yes, I hear you.
Just
See you.
before going to Italy and Spain, maybe I'll start with the Patras, where we had the project for those few years until this year when we had to close the project. People in Patras were trying to do the game. Now we know what the game means. On ships from Patras to reach Italy, whether like hiding in a ship or under a truck inside a ship or a container or something. Firstly, they were often really pushed back super violently from the port by the Greek police and the port security. Too much violence were used, and maybe some of you saw the last case we had with the Afghani guy who's like beaten and forced to fall from a 3-meter fence. But even for the few that could make it to Italy, they were also often pushed back from Italy back to Greece on actually commercial ships, like passengers ships, but they were usually detained inside the ship for trips that could long for like 12 hours sometimes, or sometimes even more. they'd be detained in a very, very, very small metal room or container with nothing inside, maximum a cardboard. Sometimes they even make them take off their clothes the whole trip. Sometimes they were handcuffed inside this room, so they can't even lie down. And this include also minors, included everyone who asked for international protection in Italy. Even the Dublin agreement of like returning migrants or refugees or asylum seekers who have like they have a request in another country, like even this was not followed in these cases. They were not the process will take few weeks or even a month or sometimes more, so they would just push them back from the port in Italy wherever they arrive. And so yeah, people were stuck in Patras for weeks and months, sometimes for years, trying to cross to Italy. And at the end, it was becoming impossible, whether because of the violence from the Greek police and the port security, or from all the technology shit and all the money that was spent on the ports to have the drones and 360 degrees cameras and all that. So yeah, people stopped using Patras as part of the journey, as part of the game. And so yeah, in NK, we had to close the project. After that, in Toyota, let's start to remember that there is no safe or no legal or no like no routes to access Toyota from Morocco since 5 years maybe now. In these 5 years, sometimes from time to time the borders would be open, but only for EU passport holders. So people would usually do the game, which is called risky in Ceuta, not game. So they would swim for approximately 14 kilometers to cross from Morocco to Ceuta. I don't know how many times bodies were found of people trying to cross while attempting, found in the sea or even on the beaches, like on the public beaches of Ceuta, where people go and hang. I guess remember in June what happened in Milea also, where I guess 37, 38 people were killed trying to cross to jump the fence into Milea. Most of the people on the move in Ceuta are minors. There is like facilities for unaccompanied minors, but they are horrible. Like the conditions are very poor. In many cases, there are violence used against them, so that leaves many of them sleeping in the streets. The access to the healthcare is really poor. The bureaucracy with finalizing their paperwork or their asylum requests are very slow, and makes them stay on the streets or on beaches in the cold weather for weeks and for months. We move to Ventimiglia, the situation there is not so different. There are many violent incidents happening, but more on the French side. In the few weeks, we got to know of at least 80 minors were detained by the PAF, by the French border police. They were detained in containers with adults in a very, very, very bad conditions, in a very hot weather. At that point, actually, where the minors were detained, they were 70, I guess, detained with adults in metal containers for 4 days, 3 nights, in a heat wave that at that moment Menton, the border town where they were detained, recorded the highest temperature in France. every day in Ventimiglia on the border, we would see literally more than 100 pushback. People trying to cross, and then the French police would push them back to Italy, where they would receive either an invitation to apply for asylum in Italy, which in many cases was actually a trap. They would go to the police station to ask for asylum, and then they would give them expulsion orders. Or in many cases, they were receiving directly an expulsion order on the border in the Italian on the Italian side. They also receive from the French police before going back to Italy. They receive I don't know what it's called, but like a paper that that says that their entrance to France is refused, so they cannot attempt again to seek international protection in France. In the same week, actually, of the minors who were detained, we came across another case of a pregnant woman and her boyfriend and their son, 6-7 years old son. They were violently pushed back from a train while they were trying to go to France and pushed back to Italy. They asked for international protection. They asked actually in French because it's also their language, but they pushed them back and they wrote in the paper that they didn't ask for international protection. And so also people are stuck in Ventimiglia for weeks and for months. They are staying under a bridge, hundreds of people. When I left, it was more than 350 people staying on the streets, mainly under this bridge. The conditions are really hard. It's like desperate living conditions. They are surrounded by trash. They don't have tents or sleeping bags because whenever we or other groups provide tents, for example, to them, and the same day the police would just destroy them, and the police then said it clearly: we will let them sleep under the bridge, but we don't want to see any like signs of life. We don't want to see tents. We don't want to see anything that shows that they live there. So they are left there without anything. They sleep on cardboards. They don't really have access to water. There was only one source of water for them. It was a cemetery where they would go in to just use the tap water. And just few weeks after the municipality, they hired like armed guards on the cemetery, so people can't access the cemetery anymore. They started before I left. They started to build a fence to close this part under the bridge to isolate them from the residents of this area. Also, they started to have more police patrols around the areas where they would just hang out during the day in like the public gardens and just public places. So that's a brief also on Ventimiglia. Also with the health, it's the same. I think I don't have to mention it in each base, but it's always the same. It's really hard to access any health service, and in general, and more specifically if you're undocumented. Now we arrived this month in Trieste. People here applied for asylum. Most of people, some people are continuing the game, trying to reach more the north, as people do in Ventimiglia, to reach France or the UK. But most of the people we meet here are staying in Italy. Let's say they applied for asylum and they're waiting to be moved to camps, but they're basically abandoned in the streets. We met some people who are just waiting to get a decision to be moved to a camp of the very first level of the process. They've been waiting here for 3 months and sometimes more. And so they stay in an abandoned building here in near the station. The situation is really, really bad. The ceiling of the building is leaking water 24 hours. Whenever it rains, that means that the water will come on people for days. The place is full of trash. There are tens or maybe more of rats, the big rats. There's no way to deal with it. The tents are very crowded. Now we're in winter and the temperature reaches 0 and sometimes under 0 and people are literally freezing there. People are trying to press to get moved to a camp, but they're just being told to wait. There's no like services provided from the government. Like even with the trash, the place is full of trash because people tried to have the trash cans taken from the place and the municipality refused. I don't know how many times. We started the project with cleaning the place. We start cleaning a lot, but the biggest problem we have is that the government still refusing to take the trash bags we collect. So it's not just the bureaucracy or the administrative violence, but it's like all the attempts that happening, whether in Ventimiglia or whether here, from the government in Italy, just to make things harder. Yes, that's briefly the situation in this last year.
Thank you, Stakoza, for the overview of the different places.
Yeah, thank you. And our last speaker, Yelena, are you here?
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant, great. Hi, sorry, I was on the call listening to everything, but I have to go pick up my children now, so I'm just walking and doing this talk at the same time. So I hope you can hear me. I'm walking along the road. It's quite busy.
Yeah,
so
we can hear
noisy.
you.
So I just wanted to say a few words really quickly about well, the situation in Serbia, but I think it was really well covered by the Serbian team of NNK. But what I wanted to pick up on was the situation with border deaths, because that was something that kept coming up, I think, in all of the different talks that we've had. And additionally, this is a project that we started and we haven't finished it yet, but it's an investigation that we worked on most recently with Lighthouse reports. And we looked at, sorry, I busted the fast. We looked on, oh good, so quiet a bit of the road in a moment. So we looked at the situation with border deaths.
Sorry, someone's in the comments. Jelena, sorry, we cannot hear you very well. Someone's saying in the comments.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah.
We
Sorry,
hear you,
unfortunately,
but
I
not very clearly.
Oh, okay. I might have to then leave the call. Sorry, I was hoping to speak earlier, but I think the timings didn't work out. So I'll just, yeah, I think if you can't hear me, then I probably can't do much more than this, I'm afraid, just because everybody has to go pick them up. But I'll stay on the call.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just sometimes it's not very clear, but if you want to give it a try.
It's not because I'm just talking. Yeah, okay. So I'll just say really, just whilst I can, and I'll say a really few quick things about the border deaths. Because it is a situation that I think is of concern. And when I mean border deaths, I mean sort of by people dying as a result of border policies, either of so-called natural causes, preventable causes, denial of medical care, or deaths through various types of violence. And what we found in our research was that in all of the key locations where border crossings, are sort of mostly happening at the moment. So, for example, the Serbia-Bosnia border, Serbia-Bulgaria border, deaths have been increasing, and in some cases, in some towns or some locations, something like 50% from one year to the next. So the numbers that we have are mostly numbers that we managed to get through sort of inquiring at, like, I don't know, prosecutors' offices, local morgues, local hospitals. So none of the numbers are official or in any way like holistic in the sense that they don't represent the full picture. But nonetheless, if I just give you one example that I think is quite illustrative, in the border town between Serbia and Bosnia, it's a town called Osnica, where the majority of the river deaths and drownings happen, sort of in that part of Serbia. The number of deaths the hospital told us that they had dealt with had gone from something like 5, 7, 8, 15, 23, sort of year on year in the last few years. And then in other
the last few years, you mean?
Yeah, so we asked everywhere we went to ask for numbers. We asked for sort of figures from 2015 until 2023. And I have to say, obviously, the authorities were very reluctant to provide any numbers. It was quite difficult to get a clear picture. But in some places, we got a yearly breakdown. In some places, we just got a lump number, basically, for all of those years. So it's hard to sort of draw any comparisons in any meaningful way. But in Bosnia, for example, so on the side of the border, so in Bijeljina, which is sort of immediately on the other side of the Drina River, we spoke to a pathologist who had performed autopsies on bodies that were found in the river. And he pretty much does all of the autopsies himself because there aren't any other pathologists in the area. And he said that it's the same thing, that in the last few years, each year he had carried out something like 8 autopsies or 5. And then this year it was 28. So it literally kind of went from 5, 7, 8, 28. And I think that just shows something that all.
Sorry, who was your informer? I missed that.
So this was this information came from the pathologist who carries out autopsies on people who drown in the Drina River, but on the Bosnian side. So this is the border between Serbia and Bosnia. And yeah, so I think this is something that all of us on this call are probably quite familiar with, the result of these border policies, the result of institutional failings, the result of denial of medical care, denial of rescue. I mean, all of this comes into it. But I think this, again, is an issue that all of us here probably have been aware of for quite a long time, but it's only just starting to become, I suppose, noticed or discussed outside of the immediate sort of circles, activist circles or people who are immediately there on the ground. And I think just a couple of things as well to note in relation to deaths that occur in this way. Obviously, as somebody also mentioned earlier, these deaths are, they often start with a disappearance, actually. And often it's a person who's disappeared and then presumed to be dead. Obviously, the people that we spoke to all say the same thing, which again is something that's familiar with all of us. These are only the deaths that have been found, so only bodies that have been found. And in our case, when we did the research in this particular way, it's only the deaths that are officially recorded. So there are many that aren't. And the pathologist that we spoke to said that because of the particularities around drownings, about his estimate is that about half will never be found, because that's just how the river works and carries bodies away and they disintegrate and so on. So then the last thing to say about the deaths that have been occurring in this region in this way is that I think people who die in this way are also made quite invisible to the official system. So what we found was that there are laws and there are procedures, particularly in Serbia and Bosnia, that mean that DNA has to be taken at the time of an autopsy, and DNA has to be kept by like the local pathologist, but the DNA is kind of technically owned by the prosecutor, as in it's only the prosecutor's office who can say whether that DNA can be analyzed and released. And so although these procedures exist officially, the majority of people who have died in this way have never been found or identified.
Sorry, what you
So-
were mentioning about the DNA, you're saying that the prosecutor didn't want to take the DNA.
They do take it. So every time an autopsy is performed, everywhere we ask, they claim that it's been taken because the law mandates that it has to be taken. But the problem is that it then just gets filed away, right? And then a family who might be looking for someone, they don't know where they would even start to look. So let's say that somebody disappeared at the crossing, let's say in Zvornik, which is like a crossing between Serbia and Bosnia. Let's say they know a person disappeared in this particular place. The body could be washed up anywhere, right? Because of the way the river flows. And then whether a body is found again, it's a case of luck as well, whether it's found or not. I mean, luck in inverted commas. And then the other issue is that the way the process works is not always very common sense. So, for example, this little town, Zvornik, doesn't have its own autopsy facilities. So bodies are transported to another town where this pathologist works, that I mentioned, and then transported back for burial. So basically, the location of disappearance, the location of finding the body, the location of autopsy, and the location of the DNA and the location of burial could all be different places, essentially. And so looking for somebody is really difficult. And we know, just to finish sort of my contribution here, but we know from the official statistics that are kept by one of the entities in Bosnia. They told us that the figures they do have is that 65 unidentified people have been found dead. Bodies have been found between 2015 and 2023 in this Republika Srpska entity of Bosnia. And out of those, only 11 have been identified. So that's since 2015. So the number of people in relation to the number of bodies, it's really, really negligent. Like the amount of identifications that are managed is really, really tiny. So, and this is, I think, going to be a really big problem. It is a big, big problem for families who don't know, where to look or how to start looking. We also spoke to lawyers who work locally. So this one particular lawyer in Serbia, who is often hired by families to investigate on their behalf a disappearance, and he comes up with it's a problem after problem. Like, you can't find any information. It's difficult to get anything. It's difficult to know where to look as well. So that's just sort of what I wanted to mention, because I think quite a number of groups that are currently supporting people on the move in Serbia and Bosnia are sort of coming across this issue quite often. And as well as the drownings that we focused on as particular research, there is, of course, the violence that that we all know takes place, and deaths as a result of violence. But increasingly, we've been told as well, deaths that occur as a result of smuggler violence that then also result in very informal burials, and presumably those people are very unlikely to ever be found. So I think I'll just end my talk here. Sorry for my suboptimal presentation conditions, but hopefully this is useful information to anyone who might be approached by families. We do have a lot more that's come through our research. I don't have obviously time to go into all of it, but I will share my contact details, and please feel free to get in touch if there's anything that you want to follow up on.
Yes, that's a great idea. And then we'll put everyone in contact. Yeah, we'll put everyone in contact. So if anyone would like to share some materials but thank you, Jelena, for your insight and your testimony.
Thank you.
I do think it's really useful. Sorry we couldn't let you in before. Thank you. And I'm aware now we only have a bit less than 10 minutes left. If anyone would like to pose any question to one of the speakers, seeing we are still together. Thank you to all of the speakers as well for sharing these obviously really tough realities that are a direct consequence of policies. And as Jelena, you were pointing it's an institutional failure, but a deliberate one. So I think we have one question in the chat. It would be nice to hear more from local people in the field in Serbia, especially because of the recent political situation. So I don't know if, yeah, the team in Serbia want to add something, or maybe.
Yes, we're still here. Can you just repeat what the question, please?
Yeah, so Amalia is saying it would be nice to hear more from local people on the field on Serbia, especially because of a recent political situation. I don't know if there's someone from Serbia.
Yeah, I mean, there were the elections yesterday, and Vucic was confirmed and won again. So like at the beginning, we thought that the Maxi operation was connected also with the elections, and maybe in a way it was like that, but we are not sure about that because it's financed by European Union money. And so we think actually that it has more to do with the externalization of borders of the European Union than the elections in Serbia.
Okay. Is there any other comment or question before we wrap up? Well, I'd like to highlight as well that I mean, that was in the video, but I think, yeah, the sound was not working very well. But if you'd like to support No Name Kitchen's winter campaign, they have a few open donation campaigns now. So, and as you've heard, those funds are really necessary and needed along different points of EU borders. So I will share everything and a link afterwards to their donation campaigns and to their website as well. If no one has anything else to add, I just want to thank the speakers again.
Can I just?
Yeah, Alan, sure.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that, and this is not my field of experience at all, and I've found some of the reports, most of them actually, absolutely shocking. I mean, I mean, we need basically to, as ENORB, to publish this. You know, obviously you've made a film and that's brilliant, but it needs to go to people in the European Commission, and I would say probably to the press as well. I mean, it'll be up to Mark to decide whether that's politically the right thing to do, but I think, you know, this is an area where maybe ENORB can make a real contribution.
Yes, definitely, Alan. I'm aware that No Name Kitchen had some meetings in the past with MEPs at the European Parliament from the Green, I think it was from, well, groups in the left that were willing to understand and learn about what was happening at the borders. I'm aware of that. And there are also multiple organizations on the ground that have met with MEPs. But I think as ENORB, that's definitely an area where we have to advocate, and each one of us in the capacity that they can. I don't know if Mark, you want to add something?
No, I just want to endorse what Alan says. I mean, things are very shocking and very bleak. And I think our role is to, as much as we can, lobby the appropriate authorities in the way that we should. And also very much support and stand up for the good work that grassroots organisations like No Name Kitchen are doing. You know, or Calais, Care for Calais, various things that we're planning to do actually going forward on this, because we think it's absolutely critical, particularly in the run up to the European Union elections in June. I'm sitting here in the UK where everything's firing off in a very anti-refugee, anti-asylum seeker, anti-migrant context. So we're really trying to do everything that we can within our resource base, and I you know, want to assure everybody at this meeting that we would try and do that. And we work with ENAR, the European Network Against Racism, as well. And we work with a lot of interfaith organizations to really focus on this issue and not let the politicians that are coming from the populist right and the very, the ones that preaching and spreading so much hate, we're really trying to counter that. But it's a big task, Alan, as I think you know. But I agree with you. It's a very shocking situation, and it gets more shocking by the day. But well done, everybody, for coordinating this meeting, Mireia and Oscar. Yeah.
Sandra, if you want to say something now.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Since I am designing a AP election campaign, I would like how would I highlight all these troubles that we have talked about, all these challenges, all these things that we need to advocate. If you could just give me one focal point, let's say, so I could focus on it in this campaign, what would it be?
Okay. I think I can share some of the reports that have been mentioned through email, but something we have to still highlight is just the ongoing violence at the borders, because it might be very obvious for us and for grassroots organizations, for some MEPs, we know that they are aware and that they are also campaigning against that, but I think we just have to keep highlighting that and keep bringing all of this information out. As I was mentioning in the beginning, there was a joint investigation by the Lighthouse Reports and other really important newspapers last week that proved the EU implication and the Frontex implication in pushing people back to Libya, to a vessel operated by a militia linked to war crimes. So just these reports, they have to still be published. So I think in the run-up to the European election, we have to. So what I'm trying to say is my focal point would be around violence. Sarkozy, if you want to add something.
And no, I just wanted to throw something for people to also search about, let's say, after of the externalization of borders, as we said, like the deals that happening with Libya, with Tunisia, with Egypt, with all the mainly the Mediterranean countries. It needs hour to talk about, but I just thought just to throw it to people to look into it. There are deals that happening now at this moment, literally, with Egypt. The agreements happening with Tunisia for some time now. The same with Libya. So yeah, like also because we were talking about Fortress Europe, and now it's not Fortress Europe. It's like it's getting bigger. It's
Definitely.
like borders are not in Europe anymore. So yeah, that's something we need to look into, because now we have the fight in Europe, but what they are doing, and we can let them succeed in, is that they are keeping the fight even away from Europe. Now that we will not even receive migrants, so we will not have those violence on the European borders, but this will be happening in other countries, in Libya, in Egypt, in Tunisia, with the European money. So that's something that like we really need to think about now.
Exactly. And on that note, Spain actually was being investigated by the EU a few months ago, because Spain gives a lot of funds to countries in Africa to build detention centers and prevent people to come in. So, but those like that money was sent as aid packages, aid to development. So yeah, definitely the externalization is not only within the European Union or outside of the European Union, but it's being now verticalized and just really reaching very far. So I think that's another main focal point. Okay, so if no one has anything to add, I think we'll wrap up now. Thank you everyone for joining and staying with us for 1 hour and a half. We really appreciate everyone being here, and I hope you felt like this was a safe space in every way possible, and you learned something. Thank you to all the speakers. I really want to highlight that, especially the teams on the field. We know it's very hard also to combine with the long working days. So thank you to Bosnia, Bulgaria, and Serbia. And yeah, we'll exchange contacts and we'll send an email with some materials that have been mentioned.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye. In solidarity.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.